Going on, guys? Garden Report, post-game edition, Game 3, Celtics, Sixers. John Zannis here, Bobby Manning in Philly, as you can see. Nice shot, Bobby. I like where you're located. Are you
This
you're
is press row, baby. We didn't get
right,
seats down here tonight, but we made our way down.
right in the thick of it there at press row.
Lively atmosphere too. You can probably hear it. It's still a little rowdy here.
I'm
Great
getting
crowd
a
here.
considerable echo. Anybody else getting it?
Yeah, I'm not hearing anything.
Interesting. It's coming into my headphones, so I'm gonna stop
Maybe
talking
you
for a
got the
minute.
show playing in another tab.
It's possible, but I don't think so. Anyway, let's roll through it. Show as always is brought to you by FanDuel. And what can you do if you want to sign up for FanDuel, Bobby? No sweat first bet. If you were dumb enough to bet Philly, as you shouldn't be, because right now obviously things trending heavy Celtics. Then this is what you would have gotten. But Celtics lock it up here. They take Game 3. And things are looking pretty good right now, just in terms of like control of the series. Early observations, Bobby, and I want your take on things. Embiid was worlds better today than last game. That's something I don't think we expected. James Harden was bad again. That is something I expected, because you and I are kind of both off the James Harden train. And I thought game one, not a fluke, but not something likely to be repeated. But I think Celtics, I think last two games really locked things down defensively. I think that's been the difference.
Yeah, and I want to see the numbers here on the threes because Celtics finished 36, about average. You're usually going to win if you're that or above. Sixers, surprisingly to me, shoot 43 in this one. It didn't feel that way.
Yeah.
They got a ton up, and they chased those with the Celtics. But for a lot of this game, and they did miss many open ones, they don't look as comfortable leaning into those. And again, they shoot great in this one. I'm very surprised by that number because they missed a lot of open ones and they didn't look comfortable taking them.
Well, it's not a surprise though, Bobby. The number one 3-point percentage team in the league this year was who?
Who's that?
The number one shooting percentage team from the 3-point line was who this year?
The Celtics.
Philly.
No. Philly.
Philly had the highest percentage, but they only averaged 32 or so a game, whereas the Celtics was considerably higher. So they are a lower volume, but a decent percentage shooting team. So, they can shoot it. It's just not their DNA to jack up a lot of threes. And it's still, you're right, it does feel a little awkward when they're at this number where the Celtics, throwing up whatever they threw up today, another 45, that's just par for the course.
Yeah, and maybe it's the manner in which they're shooting them. Maxey threw up a ton of aggressive ones, which I think they'll like from him. Harden, same deal. That touch isn't there from game one, although he got more involved on the ball in this one. I'm sure they'll like that. This isn't a game I think that Philly will panic over, especially since they got Embiid going, as you said, to a larger degree in this game. Other guys look more involved, especially Maxey, Milton. So Philly fell flat late in this game. But stayed close throughout, despite, I thought, some really solid stuff from the Celtics here tonight. Getting Grant involved again, a huge night from Al Horford. But it started with Jalen again for me. He took the ball up in that opening quarter. He got some great sets early as they went up 14-4. And he played with that forcefulness again, whether it was taking Embiid out on the baseline in the corner there and driving past them for the and one over Harden. Just big basket after big basket, paced the Celtics ahead throughout this game. Smart, similar effect, a lot of big plays in this one. Offensive rebounding, huge for this team. And then the big Horford shot at the end is, I'm sure you want to address, John, the crunch time offense. Nearly five. If they don't get that offensive rebound, and it was Brogdon who also hit the three right before that, they're talking about 6 straight empty possessions.
It was trending
within 4.
So that's the thing. This is going to be like a see they did it sort of conclusion, and I don't know that that's right. Luckily, they didn't. They stayed with it defensively, but you're right, Bobby. We were talking about it on our text thread. They did have a lot of empty possessions. Things really started to slow down at about the 7-minute mark or so. And you could just see things that just weren't, the offense wasn't flowing. They were trying to get it into Tatum's hands and then just kind of go. And they had a couple of scramble threes back, in a couple of possessions there that without those, it could have gotten really ugly, and that was Brogdon and Horford off of the offensive rebound there, and that kind of kept them going. Philly had gotten it down to 5 when Brogdon made his 3, and then I believe it was a 4-point lead, and again, not great possessions all the way down to the 3-minute mark, and then offensive rebound scramble out to Horford 3. Those were the 2 buckets that they made in that stretch of time. Okay, from the 5.5-minute mark to the 3.5-minute mark, and before that, really weren't doing anything. They hadn't scored from like 6-4. So basically, 6.5 minutes on, the offense just went to crap. But they got those 2 threes, and that kept them going. And then they got 7 straight points from Tatum. But I didn't love the possessions. I didn't love getting him out in the corner there in the elbow with Harris, where he's pinned on the sideline, and the double can come at any time and really throw it off. I thought getting 7 points out of that situation on those consecutive possessions they were very fortunate, but I did not like it at all. I didn't like the strategy at all.
Yeah, and I'm thinking
they won, but like I'm not loving how it went. I think the defense, it
got dangerous late.
It got dangerous, and their possessions were not great, but they kept playing defense, and Philly couldn't hit anything, and that was,
what bailed you out. Fortunately, a Brogdon pull-up 3, and that's why he's here, to do stuff like that in crunch time. So credit that. And a weird bounce on that Grant 3, and a good pass by Smart to set up Grant for 3 in the corner there.
Yeah.
But it bounces weird into Brogdon's hands, and Horford's wide open for a 3. So that gives you that breathing room for Tatum to go on the finishing run that he did. But before that, it's turnovers again. It's the double teams flying, and them not knowing what to do with it. You just saw this snowball building again toward a late game collapse, John. This almost looked like one of those game 1s against Philly, game 5 against Atlanta, those style of games. And I'm sure the numbers as we look again after this crunch time aren't going to be great in terms of the Celtics.
Again, didn't love the possessions, but they got the results, so that you're going to take it. But I didn't love the offense from 7 minutes on all the way through. Really, anything that they did there. But again, they made the shots. They made a bunch of big threes late, and that's all that matters. Sherrod, overall, main takeaway from tonight's game, again, kind of a rock fight in the sense that there was no flow. I put a lot of that on the refs with their whistles, way too many fouls, way too many free throws, and I think the teams weren't really getting into, great rhythm there. But Celtics, I think all of their guys kind of played their roles as best they could, and then hit big shots down the stretch there. So, a pretty well-rounded win. But what's your main takeaway?
My biggest takeaway from this is just they were able to maintain their composure when a lot of things that we've seen in the past would just absolutely lead to them imploding and letting a game like this get away. John, as you pointed out, the officiating, I thought it sucked. Just call it what it is. I thought all night long. And the thing that bothered me more than anything else was just the inconsistency with it. There were times where they would call things against Boston and they wouldn't call it against Philly. And times they would call things, against Philly and they wouldn't call it against Boston. There was just no real flow. And to me, it just makes for a crappy product.
Late whistles after misses, just garbage stuff.
Yeah, but I will say this, though, and I don't know how much you guys have talked about Grant Williams, but he, to me, is the unsung hero. Yes, Joel still got his points, but damn it, Grant made him work.
Grant made him work.
And Grant, I thought, threw him out of rhythm, particularly in the second half, because you guys have probably saw the same thing we did. He was running out of steam.
And smash face.
This is a Max Letterman sort of lower third right here. Yeah. But
Van did his face get smashed too.
Yeah.
But again, Grant, I thought this was the best game he's had certainly in this series. One of his better playoff games because he played a role, as John, as you pointed out, and he was impactful in that role.
How do you shut Grant up? You literally have to step on him.
Step on his face.
You have
That's
to literally.
How you do it.
You have to be a 300-pound man and step on his face. But Grant had talk about unsung hero moments from Grant. From buying that technical foul at the end of the at the end of the quarter there. To going in there and literally just being beaten up. That his role there was just to let Embiid slam into him. It's just
isn't that great, John?
The
2 times he complains last couple games, he gets the tech, and last game he got the review that erased the Embiid bucket.
Yeah.
It's amazing how things work out your way when you just play the damn game, keep your mouth shut, and play your role. It's not that complicated, Grant.
Right,
Really
he picked his spots.
Yeah, and he had a hell of a game.
It was tough. It was honestly credit Philly too. It was tough sailing all game. It was tough getting into the interior. Tatum got blocked a couple times. Derek White. You could tell like it was rough sailing in there. Teams had to work really hard for their buckets. So both sides, I think, really kind of really clamped down defensively tonight. It was pretty good there. So good on the Celtics for not coming to pieces. They came out at the start of the game, and it was like bing, bang, boom, like, oh, God, this type of offense are going to put up 130 tonight. And then it really, really slowed down. So, again, they had to work hard for their buckets to get them tonight. And I thought they did. I thought they kept their composure even at times when things weren't going great for them. They never let it get away. They never let it really snowball, and they most importantly, stayed with that defensive focus throughout. They didn't let frustrating trips on the offensive end come back and impact them defensively. They really stuck to it.
And they took advantage of that real estate between the three-point line and the paint. I thought that was the adjustment that they had to make against Joel. Rather than just keep beating your head up against the wall, trying to score at the rim, or just keep jacking threes, look at all that real estate you got in between those two zones and make it. I thought Jaylen Brown did a great job of that. Derek White, I thought second half.
Even Tatum hit a floater.
Tatum hit a floater, exactly. Yep. And when Philly goes back and watches the film, now they've got another thing to worry about. Yes, the three-point shot they got to worry about, and certainly Jaylen Brown's ability to finish at the rim. But now you've got all that space in between where they've had multiple guys in this game exploit that and take advantage of them. And I don't know how much you guys talked about James Harden, but my goodness, just atrocious what we're seeing out there. I mean,
18% from the
it's
field
painful to watch him play
game
now. It's painful to watch him play. It is really painful.
So this is how I felt
to the
about
point where the Celtics. It's like, who do we want to really pick on tonight?
Yeah, I think a lot of people made a lot of good points that I didn't fully consider after game one, but there was the amount of rest for James Harden and how that factored in. Because I mean, he just looks like he's not capable of, it's hideous. The amount of jump he had, it wasn't just the shot was falling, just the way he was moving in games 1 and 2. I mean, he was just passing it directly to the Celtics early on. He couldn't get, he couldn't really get by anybody.
The turnovers killed them before halftime. They were within 6 or so.
Unreal. And Harden was capped in turnover. It was really bad.
Bad ones too. Balls flying out of bounds. Their guard play is kind of stunk in this series.
And Maxey was brutal tonight too. Yeah. I mean, brutal.
Melton's a guy you can go at out there. I thought he was a better defender than this.
Game 1, the guards won it for them, and today they were bad, man. They were really bad. Maxey 4 of 16, 3 of 9 from 3. Harden 3 of 14, 5 turnovers. I mean, you see it over there. The turnovers were just brutal, and they weren't even like pressure. He was just throwing it wherever the hell he wanted to. It was really, really bad.
Yeah, and they can't compete with him playing like this. They need someone else to step up.
I think they need Melton in place of Harden, in place of Tucker in the starting lineup. I think that's the automatic move.
Right, it's tough to play Embiid and Tucker together because at most you're just seeing these tiny pockets where Tucker scores, and offense is the issue for Philly right now. Celtics are jamming them up defensively.
You can leave Tucker alone everywhere on the floor except from the corner.
Yeah,
literally.
This was more or less a 2022 kind of Celtics win. Just bite the runs, defend, put your head down, score on some key possessions. Things look sloppy late. The offense, you're going to leave with some questions here. But overall, you're thrilled with the commitment to ball movement and the commitment to defense, which is something over the last couple of games here. And Joe has started talking about it more.
Yeah.
That I love to hear and that I love to see from this team. They're noticing, and I've talked to numerous players over the last couple of days, John, who say, we got to be better defensively.
We do need Garden Report bibs. I was excited, and I drank my water fast, and it spilled.
I'm going to go. I'm very interested, by the way. Rob hurt tonight. I'm going to go check on him in the locker room, John.
Do everything in your power to make sure Rob is okay. Look, he came back on
Make him some lemon loaves if you have to, Bob.
Yeah. He had a little sleeve. I think Rob was fine. He was back on the bench. It looked like he could have played.
When he was back on the bench, that gave me a sense of confidence, because I think if he would have been just significantly injured, he probably would have stayed in the back.
Yeah.
But again, Rob Rob was another one who I thought that he picked his spots to be
jumpy.
impactful.
Yeah.
Yes. And he was really smart about it. I mean, Rob wasn't going for every single shot that came in the paint, but he knew as a help side defender, he had a couple of really nice plays that they needed. And this was an all hands on deck kind of game. I mean, Tatum and Brown are going to get lots of the headlines, obviously, but you start going down the line of all the guys that played, every single one of them had at least one or two moments where their play was significant in this game's outcome.
And let's talk about how many moments this guy had. Al Horford, big shots all game long. And Al Horford, if you were paying attention, I think a lot of people were, to what came out of shoot around this morning. Al was tested a little bit on a
elite
shot.
Shooter.
Hold
what?
on, and I have it. I just happened to have
okay,
that.
Good.
I just happen to have that clip. So here was Al kind of talking about why his shot's been off a little bit, and here's how this exchange went down.
Love it.
This morning. Here you go.
Love it.
Your best shooting season this season. Shots kind of gone away a little bit here in the playoffs. What's different? What's going on with the shot now?
Not much difference, really. I'm still getting good looks, and I'll continue to shoot them. Even throughout the season, I went through ups and downs. And that's just a part of it when you're an elite shooter. You're gonna get them up. You're laughing. You don't think I'm an elite shooter?
I do.
My numbers don't support it.
They do. The best.
We go through walls. So
yes,
just staying
Al.
confident and ready to go.
Yes, Al.
Thank you.
That's my OG right there. Yes, Al.
Yeah.
But you don't think of it? Check the stats. I got receipts. You want me to pull out those receipts?
We're giving. I think that was Duke Castiglione who laughed, and we're giving Duke the game ball tonight because Al was big down the stretch.
No, I love that. And the thing about, Al had 17 points tonight, had 16 total in the first couple games. Clearly, Al was locked and loaded and just ready to make an impact. And the shots that he take, those are the shots he's been getting, throughout this series. So it wasn't this kind of unusual, revolutionary thing that he was doing. This is what Al Horford has been doing all season. You look at his numbers; he has been one of the best three-point shooters in the NBA most of this season. I find it's funny to me to hear Al call himself an elite shooter. That to me was funny, because Al is like he's like the Mr. Humble. He doesn't feel comfortable talking about himself in a truly positive light like that. But if you got the receipts to back it up, then you absolutely flex like that.
What's funny is he kind of said it half joking, an elite shooter.
But when that dude started laughing.
And then he did not like being laughed at, because the numbers this year actually would say he's elite, but he knows he's not an elite shooter. But, he's going to shoot his shots, and he did. And it's been big. This was huge for him. Al's threes were game savers, because I do believe that, again, the offense had rough patches tonight, and they got bailed out by a few timely threes, and Al can account for 5 of them, So things weren't necessarily going great, but it ended up somewhere, in a possession that there wasn't really terrific movement, and bang, Derek White hit one that he shouldn't have hit. There was a couple of those, and it worked out for them. So again, they kept shooting. They hit their shots when they needed to, and they got through some of the rougher patches when things started to kind of stagnate a little bit. But old man Al had a little life in him. That's great, because I think people were dogging him too, because especially you see sometimes his box scores like 1 for 3, and it doesn't look like he makes an impact. So when Al's popping a few, that looks great. And it's, again, he's just what he needed to be.
Yeah, and he needs to do that in this series just to keep Joel honest.
Exactly.
Joel is going to sit in the middle of the damn paint if you don't give him reason not to. And Al knocking down those shots, that was a big part of why I thought Joel, as we got near the latter stages of the third quarter, you could tell the tank was on E. He was just absolutely gassed, and understandably so. He's a big man who's logging major minutes, coming off a knee injury that we don't know if this were a regular season how long he'd be out. My gut tells me he might still not be playing if this were in the regular season. But he's finding a way to gut this thing out, and his offensive game, it is what it is. He's going to be dominant in that respect. but he's not moving great. And he's never been a great mover to begin with, but he really does look slow, even by Joel Embiid standards. And if you're the Celtics, again, with games every other day, I'm not sure he's going to be moving it much better than what we've seen tonight. Yeah. His conditioning, I think, will get better, but that's a completely separate category from his ability to run up and down the floor. I suspect as this series goes on, if Rob Williams is able to just stay healthy, we're going to see probably in the next few games at least 1 or 2 rim runs by Rob where he just basically beats him down the court for a layup or dunk.
Yeah, and it's interesting strategy-wise how they've decided to play this and the amount of double big. You've noticed Al will play solo against Embiid, and then it will be either Grant and Rob or Rob and Al. But it's always, if Al's the only big who's allowed to be the only big out there against Joel. So he has a task when he's out there and he doesn't have one of those other guys, it's got to be him. And then when he goes out, they're using the Grant and Rob kind of combo there. Rob to be back there to clean stuff up and Grant to kind of body him and man him up. But you saw they threw a bunch of different things at him tonight. They threw Jaylen Brown at him a little bit, Marcus Smart, different guys to just try to agitate him when he catches the ball, at the top of the key and tries to go to work there. And that's been good because you know what? Yeah, he's going to bully you into the paint like he did a couple of times, like he did to Jaylen that one time. Those guys might help kind of prevent him having another 20 for 25 shooting night with a bunch of free throw jumpers, which is another way that he can really go to work. And you don't want to get hurt that way necessarily. Right. So it's been an interesting combination of things that they've done for him there. But again, if he's not 1,000%, and as you said, as the series wears on and they're not getting breaks, and if he's not able to get up and down the floor the same way, I mean, again, I thought he looked way better tonight than he did the other night. He was moving better.
He did.
Still a real defensive pressure presence, but if they're not getting scoring from the rest of the guys, if they're not getting people who can, they're going to need Superman Embiid to win, right? You need 40-point Embiid. I don't know if you're going to get that if these guards are going to kind of keep putting up performances like this. So again, Harden doesn't have the game of the century, the game of his year against you in game 1. It's a 3-0 series right now, even, despite how the Celtics kind of let that one get away from them. Bring in Josue Pavon. Josue, what did Joe say? Is he chippy? Does he have a chip on his shoulder today? What's up?
Yeah, the same kind of vibe.
You want to ask me about my game 3 adjustments?
Not along those lines, but more so towards me when I talked about how the Celtics made adjustments. And what did they do? What did you see in the second half in the sense that they weren't fouling as much because the Philadelphia 76ers were 15 for 15 from the free throw line in the first half? And he goes, I told them don't foul as much. I said, all right, Joe. So I did the classic, clap back before you lose your spot type of, follow up. And I was like, well, did you tell them? Did you say something about it? I mean, did you, not did you tell them? I asked, did you have a game plan for that? Or did he go, no, they figured it out on their own. I think that was the overall message that he had throughout the press conference was that the Celtics had the awareness to make the adjustment that they needed to make, and he didn't have to tell them. And he obviously appreciates that and sees that as the biggest reason why they were up by double digits towards the end of the game. I mean, Jason Tatum outscoring the Philadelphia 76ers in those last 3 minutes certainly helped the cause, but the Celtics team as a whole put Tatum in that position. And of course, that defense that led to those stops that built that lead started with them just stop fouling. They couldn't find that rhythm. They couldn't find the rhythm on that end because of that. And that's what really kept Philly in the game throughout, 3 quarters. That's
the problem with a team like Philly. You can't give them the calls you give them that are ticky-tack because they're going to get so many on their own because they are physical. Embiid's going to draw contact that's legitimate. You can't give all of them. The phantom ones are killers because then when the real stuff happens, all of a sudden you're just racking up an insane amount of fouls and you're putting teams in the bonus, with 7 minutes to go in the quarter and stuff. So I thought, I talked about it.
You have to be physical with Embiid. That's how you stop him,
You have to, but he gets.
But you can't stop him even when you're physical with him.
Yeah.
No, that's true, Sherrod. But I feel like that balance, the Celtics have trouble finding that balance in the first quarter and a half, right?
Yeah. This is Joe. It's not a fun, I feel bad. I'm almost like, I don't even know if I can play like a normal Joe bite unless he's getting really mad or snippy. But here's just Joe talking about kind of, switching things over and having the guys play in a hostile environment.
I mean, they've been here before. And so I think just embracing it, I think sticking together. I thought the guys, the way they communicate in timeouts, the way they communicate to each other after timeouts, the way they communicate to each other during the game is the most important. So those guys have a togetherness and a connectivity, and I think that's how you have to get through it. You got to manage your expectations. You got to know that what you're up against, and so it's not going to go your way, as you guys said. And so understanding that, and then just building an awareness to when it's not, how quickly can we get it back. But it's them. They communicate, they stick together, and they execute.
That togetherness and connectivity that Joe's talking about, when I hear him say that and I look at the Celtics and then I look across the way and I see the Sixers, that's a big ass difference. They don't look nearly as connected or together. And the reason for that is because when their best player is on the floor, they tend to take a deep breath and kind of relax. They don't play with an edge. They don't play with that nastiness that you need to win a series. And yet when he's not around, they're like, oh crap, we have to play together. We got to be on the same page just to compete. And to me, that is going to be the challenge for Doc Rivers going forward. I thought it was going to be the biggest challenge tonight, and I was right. How do you get the best of what Joel Embiid has to offer and extract the best of the guys around him? Can you get all that together? Because we've seen 3 games. First game without Joel Embiid, the rest of the group looked great. They won. Second game, he comes back. It was kind of a tune-up game. He looks great. The rest of the guys, they suck. This game, again, Joel looked really good. The rest of the guys, not so much. How can they do that? And I got an answer. They can't. They're not built to do that. They don't have the kind of guys around Joel that play with that nasty edge that you need to have when Joel is on the floor. And part of that is because Joel, as big and strong and as physical as he can be, he's not trying to be big, strong, and physical most of the damn game. He spends more time on the damn floor than any other player in the series, and that's inexcusable. You are the biggest, baddest man in the game, and yet sometimes you fall with no one even touching you. In game 2, he's literally running up the court and falls down at half court.
Honestly, the play where he stepped on Grant was falling. It was falling. He was falling when he shouldn't have to fall. But we'll welcome Bobby Manning back into the fold. What's up,
Bobby? Yeah, you live, bro. You're not backstage no more.
Josue with the jokes.
He had that look like, wait, am I live?
That's all right. Well, that's Bobby will get there. He'll get there when he gets there. So I mean, no,
I'm wondering how the Sixers can find that happy medium where you can empower James Harden, but not so much as the kind of attempts or the same type of look that we saw in game 1, because you can't do that, right, when Joel Embiid's out there. But how do you?
I don't think James can do it physically. I think that's the bigger problem. I don't think James can get to the spots that he's used to getting to. James, I think, has become just he's a 3-point shooter when he is not getting to the cup. And and the Celtics don't allow him to get to the cup.
Well, he woke up Jalen, though. That's the thing. Like, Jalen, he's still thinking about game 1. He's like, you never do that shit again. Like, you can just tell. I feel like he's the one that's taking the mantle, being like,
thing. So I did want to say that, because isn't it amazing? For
pride. It's a pride thing.
But when we say things during the year, because I think Jalen has over time earned the reputation of a 3-and-D guy, a two-way player, two-way wing, and it's discussed that way as if it's been that way throughout his career. And the reality is, he was a fearsome defender earlier in his career, but over the last couple of years, it's an inconsistent effort, but it's there. It's almost like the whole team philosophy on defense, why I wasn't worried necessarily at times when they weren't playing great defensively, because I'm like, as soon as they decide, it's an effort thing. They have the guys who are capable of being outstanding defenders. So it is, every once in a while, you need Jalen to get there, and he does, and you see it. You've seen those times where he's smacking the floor and he's locked in, so he's taking it seriously. That game 1 is probably what you might have really needed to awaken the beast there, because it's totally different. He's putting as much, if not more, effort energy and pride into what he's doing defensively as his offense, which is clearly his hallmark. And that's a good thing, because it totally changed around game 2 from the tap when he decided to pick up Harden, have not just guard him, but full court. And all of a sudden Harden was like, oh, so this is going to suck. And it took him out of the whole game.
Right.
And they were, as we said, fighting through screens. Nope, I'm still here. You're not getting through. You're not getting the cheapie. All of that stuff. You try your bullshit rip-throughs and all of that stuff. Nope, that's not going to work either. Harden stopped trying to score anytime he didn't shoot a 3. He stopped trying to score. All he did was try to draw fouls.
It was sad.
That's all he's done. Just foul hunting. That's all he's done for 2 games because he realizes I can't get there. So I gotta buy calls or I'm not gonna score. And he knows it now. And it's in his head because he knows, like, physically this guy's gonna dominate me at this point. So Jalen put that in his head. He's that young whippersnapper who's like just too fast for you. And Harden knows it at this point. And he can't do anything other than what he's been doing. And that's hope the 3 falls or foul hunt.
And even when he tries to get a switch and he has to deal with Marcus Smart, Smart's giving him the business. James Harden has been just one of the worst defenders in the postseason right now. I went back and looked at the numbers after game 2. Guys were 7 for 9 when James Harden guarded him in game 2. Yep. 7 for freaking 9.
Yeah.
We're not, and it's not like the Celtics had like 1 or 2 guys. It was like 4 different guys that were giving him the business. So, hey, Bobby Manning.
Bobby, you gonna be able to do it this time?
Yeah.
Your dial-up internet got through? Hold on one second. Before you get going, I want to tell everybody at home about FanDuel. Check this out. Yeah. Check this out. Go to FanDuel.com, and again, all right, let me read the copy. Make a fast break to FanDuel during the NBA playoffs because that's what we got. Fast break. Right now, new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. So in order to do that, you go to FanDuel.com/Boston. FanDuel is the exclusive wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network. Sign up, download the app. There's a ton of great promotions that you'll be able to take advantage of daily in addition to this sign-up bonus. It's safe, secure. You get paid instantly. FanDuel.com/Boston. Get your no-sweat first bet. Get it going. Let me put it up here. There it is. Now that's Patriots, Celtics. 1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/Boston. Bobby, what do you got?
I got a fun clip I sent over to you from Grant. I didn't see Robin there, unfortunately.
Oh, okay. I'll find it and I'll play it.
Grant did react to the stomp, and I think you guys will like it.
Oh, okay. Let me get the Grant stomp going, and we can talk about it. Man, good for him though. He could have not come back.
Yeah, I mean, it looked awful.
It looked awful.
300 pounds stomp.
Oh, I mean, straight up the entire face.
When you look at the replay of it, my goodness.
John Mazzulla said he could take it. He's tough.
Oh, here's Grant.
I'm a little crazy, so I was fine. I'm good. I'm good to go.
Have you watched the video? Like, I mean, your angle wasn't.
Yeah, Jim showed me the video more recently. I was like,
we got some swelling.
But it happens, man. He was falling backwards, and I'm just thankful that he didn't fully just lean his weight onto it because he definitely got me pretty badly. But then I think he felt that he landed on something, so he picked his foot up. So yeah, it hurts a little bit.
Little quiet there, but you can hear it. In pretty good spirits about it. But I mean, if that doesn't make you love Grant all over again, what will, right?
Listen, you get multiple Tommy points for that. I mean,
all the Tommy points, a series worth of them.
Taking the foot to the face and then get your ass back in the game afterwards. I love it.
Yeah,
he's been great.
This is a big show. I'm so excited. I keep spilling water on myself.
I wouldn't have noticed if you didn't say it.
I know. Everyone's like, dude, John, learn to drink. Yeah, I know. I got it. I've been excited. I'm trying to drink fast and then operate the board and talk to these guys, and it's gotten a little sloppy. I apologize. Go ahead.
This is another good Grant game. I'm baffled at this point, John.
It's because he got benched.
Do not bring up Atlanta. Do not bring up Atlanta, Bobby. Don't do it.
Don't say it was a bad decision because this is why it was a good decision. So
how good was it, Bobby?
Phenomenal. Another phenomenal game.
It's Cinco de Mayo. We should be having drinks. Oh, never mind. Let me stop.
And this is
We'll talk later.
This is the kind of game, and I think he had one similar to this in the first round series where he's not scoring, he's not hitting shots, but he's doing other little things, particularly on the defensive end, as we said to open the show. And he's so versatile on that end that you can use him in a number of different ways. In fact, at one point, they moved him to center, John, just for a few minutes, but it's another look you can give the opposing team out there. Yeah, he was out there center for 1 minute.
They've done that a ton in the past. You can play a small ball lineup with Grant at the center.
Right, and now you have him in the rhythm. He's out there spacing in crunch time. He's part of that crunch time lineup because Brown's in foul trouble. He can be that threat in the corner. He's gonna space the floor just because of that reputation as a three-point shooter. I don't think there should be a game going forward where he doesn't play at all.
Oh, Bobby.
He's too good.
Let's just play game by game.
Why are we doing that with him? He's part of the rotation. He should play every game just like everybody else.
He is not part of the rotation.
What? Since when? Last postseason. This
after the All-Star
series, late in the season.
Last postseason, he played 27 minutes per game on the way to a title.
Last
played
postseason.
well.
Got it. Last postseason.
That was months ago, Bobby.
Well, if you want to make
Ime Udoka was
last
still head coach.
Mike Budenholzer had a job.
Today,
not so much.
Exactly.
Look, I think I'm honestly, I lean more Team Bobby on this. Not in the sense that he's essential and that he has to play. It's just that it really comes down to the trust in Hauser and Hauser minutes and the type of team that you're playing versus a team where you want physicality and defense, and that's what you want in this series. We all said Grant's going to play, even when Grant wasn't playing.
This series,
we all guessed Grant wouldn't play much against Atlanta, and I thought he'd have multiple DNP CDs, and he did. And we guessed that he would play a great deal against Philadelphia and Milwaukee. It's just what the series calls for. But if they go Golden State again, I don't know. Maybe Denver. Every matchup is different. If they make it all the way there, the Heat. I don't know.
Golden State, 100%, John. I mean, he has to. He has to redeem himself of the whole Draymond situation.
Guys, you remember
that could be mental for his career, moving forward. That's a big step, I believe.
Yeah.
We're talking hypotheticals now, but still, that would be. Yeah, that's a matchup. I'd be upset if he missed out on that type of matchup.
He left a piece of his manhood out in San Francisco for sure. So
and then went to the man's wedding. But I
went to his wedding. Yeah.
I think if you're gonna make the finals this year, if you're gonna win a championship, he needs to be part of the picture to some degree. And not only, it doesn't have to be 27 minutes. Rather, it could be 10 minutes. It could be the Hauser minutes that you've given him at certain points. I just think he brings more all around, not only shooting and defense, but a little bit of that basketball IQ and just experience in these moments that you want to lean on. You finally, I think, seeing him shoot aggressively, to Josue's point of maybe the benching working and instilling some of these lessons into him or habits again that they want him to play with. Good play. My favorite play of this game is probably the closeout he attacked, John, where he hit White for the 3 free throws. Got off the ball in the lane instead of trying to toss something up or do too much. And I think that's the biggest difference you're seeing right now with him, is playing that narrow, decisive role on the offensive end and not ISOing or
Grant?
Rangers or floaters, anything like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, take a page out of PJ Tucker's book, even though people are frustrated by him. But he knows, I'm not here to do anything but stand in the corner and shoot threes and play defense. And that's really what Grant's got to be.
Right.
That's it. Does he have more skill than PJ Tucker? Of course he does. Is he able to do more things? Sure. It's just not needed on this team. His role here is to do that, and that's what this team needs. And if he does that, then great. And if he zips it a little bit, let's talk. I just want everyone's take on Tatum's game. Can't argue with how things finished. I didn't love the strategy that the Celtics had employed with slowing it down and isoing and giving it to him in the elbow against Tobias Harris. And I just think that welcomes, disaster.
It slows things down, right? Yeah.
I don't love the slowdown, but he hit his shots. And again, ultimately, so much of Tatum comes down to if you hit the big boy shots, you get to play the big boy game, but when you don't, you have to, you get the fingers coming, in your way. But it's been tough sailing. Embiid's gotten to him a little bit, trying to get into the lane and what he needs to do. To his credit, I don't think he stayed on the ground as much as he did at other times. He got back up and he kind of kept looking for different things. He did, as we said, tried a floater in there. He kind of kept with it. The best thing I'll say is I don't think it was a perfect game from Tatum. And I thought a couple of times he forced the issue, but he didn't allow himself to get super frustrated or take himself out of the game all night. And he was there when they needed him. And he hit those, scored all of those points late that put the game away. But, your guys' kind of thoughts on his game?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it, that's what stands out the most. He closed it out. He outscored the Sixers. That's what superstars do, and that's what he did. I mean, I expected a bit more in terms of a classic bounce back game for Tatum, where it's usually, much more efficient. He's not just relying on more of the 3-point shot. What did he take 11 in this one? 3 of 11 from deep. So kind of a casual Tatum in the sense of the way he was dribbling and really milking the shot clock in certain possessions. But I mean, in the second half, he found his rhythm, and that's what matters most. Other guys stepping up as well. I thought between Jalen and Marcus Smart, Tatum was that guy that sort of closed it out because of what everyone else was doing, and then the Sixers just don't have an answer for him, right? I just want him to get to the free throw line a bit more. What was he, 4 or 5 in this one? I mean, 8, 9, 10 free throws. That should be automatic, night to night, especially throughout the playoffs.
It should, but
my only gripe, really, just trying to be more aggressive. Sort of what Jalen's been doing more. I still think Jalen's been still that MVP that we awarded him for his first round matchup, against the Atlanta Hawks. I think it still stands, but we're probably halfway through the series here. So obviously Tatum still got plenty left, but yeah, he's getting back into things. It's a step in the right direction. But again, I want to see more him going to the paint and get to the free throw line more often.
I just want him to just whatever he's doing, be one of the best on the floor at doing that. Like his scoring, we know he can score with the best of them, but I want him to make an impact defensively. And I thought he did some really subtle things that were really good. Something as simple as keeping the man that you're guarding in front of you.
Yeah.
Keeping the guy in front of you from beating you off the dribble so that Rob doesn't have to come over or Grant doesn't have to come over and pick up a cheap ticky-tack foul because your ass got beat off the dribble. Tatum, I thought, did a great job of that in this game. He did, and there were times where, James Harden, those guys tried to ISO him. And he just didn't allow himself to get beat. And so that's unique. He's figuring out that, if you want the crown of being that dude, you got to play both ends of the floor.
Yeah, I mean, what flipped the Atlanta series when Atlanta started to get a little bit of momentum? Tatum switching over on Trae Young.
Yeah, that's a good point. But that was he had a similar play when he knocked the ball away from Embiid. That sort of got the offense going when the Celtics started things off in that fourth quarter or towards the end of it. Offensive rebounding, he created a couple of second chance opportunities for the team. So when he's hustling, doing other things, when the shot isn't falling, I mean, we see a similar stat line to this. But yeah, I mean, that's going to be something that gives this team another extra muscle on the defensive end.
Yeah. And you're right. I mean, I've always thought the evolution of Tatum's game comes when he fully embraces that what you do to win isn't always necessarily just score. And so you can do a lot of different things. But again, it was, this could have gone both ways. He had a little period of time there where he had a bad turnover, had a bad offensive foul. Things started to slow down. And I was like, uh-oh, we could be headed for it. And, he turned it around late, to his credit. So that's good. Still hasn't had that kind of eruption game, but he needed to answer the bell a little bit because people were looking at it. And I honestly can't stand, my least favorite conversation is the Tatum Brown, who's the alpha. One guy plays and he's the alpha and then the other play. Who gives a crap? Are they having these conversations between George and Kawhi? Does this matter? Who gives, it's such a dumb convo and it's such a dumb designation. Ultimately, do what you do well, as you said, Sherrod, all the time. And then just that's good enough because they're both exceptional players who do a bunch of different things really, really well. They're young, they're athletic, and they're two-way players. That's a lot of stuff. Just do that.
Yeah, and it kind of goes back to what we're saying about Grant, and that is there are certain matchups where certain players are going to be exceptional. We've seen at stretches in this game, certain matchups, Jaylen Brown is the best player on the floor. We've seen stretches where Tatum is the best player on the floor. That's what having top shelf, elite, upper echelon talent will do for you. They don't have to both be eating at the top of the mountaintop at the same time for you to be a good team. And they understand that. The rest of us don't. They're cool with that. They have no issue with, going back and forth as far as who's taking the lead and who's not. And to Josue's point, I don't think it's really much of an argument at this point that Jaylen Brown has been the best player on the Celtics roster in the playoffs. I think it's close, but by no means is it close where maybe Tatum, no, Jaylen Brown. But if you look at their body of work this season, you got to give the edge to Tatum when you look at the fact that he's the first player in franchise history to give you 30 plus a game. And to John's earlier point, that I think is the scary part for, I think, opponents, because Tatum has not had that explosive game that is in there. Tatum can have like a stretch where he can go 4, 5, 6 games where he's giving you 35, 40 points a night and barely crack a sweat. He has had nothing like that up to this point, and yet here they are, 2 wins away from getting back to the Eastern Conference Finals. So I'm not worried about Tatum because I know that at some point he's going to hit you for 40. And he's probably going to hit you for 2 or 3 40 pieces. And that's when they become a scary team. That's when that gear that Tatum keeps talking about that they can go to. That's what his gear is going to look like.
Yeah, but again,
and it doesn't matter who they're playing against too, right, Sherrod? Like, after what he did in what was it, Game 6 against Giannis and the Bucks, man, like we just know he can go to that level if he needs to.
Best thing about this team is I actually think that they don't need it. Whereas some teams need their superstar to have superstar performances. The best thing about this team is you don't need it, as you've seen by Tatum scoring seven freaking points and winning by 34 in the playoffs.
I guarantee there's not a game this season where Joel had 7, 8, 9, 10 points and they won. Hell no.
Most teams can't do that. And again, I mentioned it last game. But in the regular season, Tatum had a miserable shooting night in a 12-point game against Philly with no support because the Celtics were down both bigs and Jaylen went out hurt that game and they beat Philly on the road. So that's another one where Philly must have, so again, this team can beat you. They have enough guys that can beat you. When you've got Brogdon can score 25 coming off the bench at any given time, and Rob Williams might be one of the most impactful players in the league when he's on the floor at times and he's coming off the bench. There's just a lot of guys. And again, you haven't had a good Derek White series either. So there's just a lot of different ways. You had Derek White as your second most reliable player in the first series. And, he hasn't done it much he could wake up and drop 27 next game or something. So you can get it from a lot of places. Sherrod was talking about how JB has been unquestionably the best player for the Celtics so far, and I think that's totally fair. Here's Al Horford talking about, we also talked about tone setting. Here's Al talking about it too.
Find yourselves following him more often, especially early in the game. It looks like the ball was in his hands.
Yes, yeah. Jaylen is setting the tone for us. He's doing a great job, and you're right, we are following him, not only on the offensive end but on the defensive end as well. So he's playing at a very high level right now.
Phenomenal question, Bobby.
Give that man the next
Well
contract.
said by the elite shooter for the Boston Celtics, Al Horford.
Elite shooter. He's elite. No shout out to the Garden Report on that one, but that's fine.
Shout out to Duke.
Not everybody has to. Exactly. I was saying Duke gets a game ball.
Yeah, absolutely. Good for Duke.
No, he gets the brownie. He motivated Al. It doesn't take
the brownie award. You're right. He gets the brownie award.
He motivated Al. That's what Al does. He responds to whatever he deems is slight disrespect.
How dare you laugh at me, Duke? I love that.
You know what it was too? It was I don't know who did the first initial little chuckle, and then he was the second one. Something like that.
He came in really big with it.
Wait a minute.
Because Al said it joking.
Yeah, exactly.
Al got the requisite ha. But Duke overdid it, and then he looked right at him like,
you believe this guy? And it's like, wait a minute.
Wait a second.
You laughed a little too hard. You laughed a little too hard.
It's not that funny.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. I love it.
You know my stats, right? Like that's why he was kind of like, wait a minute. Yeah. You laughed a little too hard there, so let me correct you real quick.
Okay. Take it easy, buddy. No, that was fun. We gave Alice flowers earlier too. That was good. Good on him. But again, it's you can get it a lot of places. I just don't, you just really can't. When we talk about depth, and again, that's really what it comes down to. How many teams can have 3 or 4 different guys be the guys who win games for you on a regular night? To have your you can have a night where it's Al Brogdon and White, and have your 2 best players not play great, and
Like, how
still
many teams have that?
it's not a lot that do, where you can get it up and down the roster. I think everyone thinks this is like Jimmy and I, we have these semantic debates about depth. Yeah, without full faith in your 8th man, are you truly deep? And it's really more about the depth in the sense that you have 7 starters, and at any given time you've got 3 of them when you're going to your bench, you've got 3 and 4 starting not just starting caliber players on the floor at all times, and that's a huge advantage for them, and you see it where you can suffer off games from some of your better players and do it. But the Jalen thing is interesting in terms of what Al just said there. Like, what do you guys think of just that response? Like, yeah, we are actually following his lead. Because again, people are like, it's that whole, who's the leader? Who's the guy? Who's the, when you see them kind of slog through stuff and you're like, who's the guy to wake them up? And you have Jalen have a lot of these comments after games. We didn't come out. We didn't that. Are they kind of saying, without saying it, like, we know Tatum's the best player, so he's got to do it. And if he's not going to do it, I guess I'm going to do it. And Jalen takes it on himself to be like, yeah, I'm the alpha. I'm the captain now, and just go out and do it.
Well, yeah. I mean, Jalen's game is such that not only is he scoring and finishing at the rim, but he puts more stress on your defense than Tatum does, because Tatum's game is built more so around finesse, whereas Jalen's game is much more forceful. Those drives to the basket, drawing contact, forcing, just putting his body into the bodies of others. Whereas Tatum, he'll sliver into the lane and look to finish. He'll knock down the 3 ball. He'll look for the mid range, but he does it. He's not a contact magnet the way Jalen is. And when we get to this point in the season, you're in the playoffs, you are going to get your ass hit early and often. And Jalen, if we're being honest and real, is more built for that than Tatum. That's not a knock on Tatum, because I think Tatum has a much more all-around elite skill set. But in terms of the physicality that comes about in the playoffs, Jalen allows them to get off to a better start because he's literally and figuratively built better for that brand of basketball, I think, than Tatum is.
Yeah. Stronger. No doubt. But it's been good. It's been good to see, though. I like this there's a lot to like about Jalen's game always, but it's that locked in 2-way Jalen right now, the way he's playing. And it's just, I said it last game. I thought he played a close to perfect game. No joke. I rewatched the whole game. There was maybe one thing where you're like, oh, don't do that. The entire game. Every time he got into the paint and he made the right read, whether to pull up, take it all the way to the basket, dribble back around, or kick it out to an open shooter. If the Celtics shot better from 3 in the first half, he could have had 7 or 8 first half assists. He was finding everybody, and the defense was aggressive but smart, not overplaying, not jumping, not leaving its feet, slipping through screens, using his feet, not just kind of bullying his way through there. You saw what he did. One time he did use his physicality. This is last game, fighting through a PJ Tucker screen. He slipped every Embiid screen easy. He fought through a PJ Tucker screen by slamming him in the chest, and Tucker got mad and hit him back with a forearm. Everything Brown did was literally almost a perfect game last game, just in terms of his decision-making, his poise, and his overall effort and energy. And when he does that, he definitely takes himself to a different level versus just I can score whenever I want to score Jalen Brown. So the guy the last 2 games doing what he's been doing on both ends has been, on another planet.
Yeah, man, that was like a big part, and I'm glad you brought that up, because people forget, like, especially in his early years, like, that was a big part of them scouting to get him, to him becoming a Celtic. Yeah, the athleticism was obviously a big selling point, and his ability to score and knock down shots. Even his 3-point shot was in question at the time, right? They weren't quite sure, but they saw that, okay, well, if he really works on it, it could be there for him. But it was the defense. It was that two-way capability that really attracted the Celtics and taking him in a spot where they had a couple of options, right? You know, guys like Hield or Jamal Murray, you know, but they picked Brown.
Chris Dunn. Don't forget about Chris Dunn.
Chris Dunn was in the mix. That's true. Providence.
That's who they wanted because that's who supposedly
Chris Dunn was one of their.
That's who Chicago wanted when the Celtics wanted Butler. The idea was that they wanted Dunn.
If you want him that badly, you could flip him right.
And so the thought was, well, after they didn't take the guy that Chicago wanted, that Butler trade was dead, and that's why he got booed. That's why people wanted Dunn in that draft. But there was other people. But yeah.
There was other names thrown around, but it was more about flipping that pick for an established star, and that's why he got booed. But Jalen wasn't looking at it like that way, obviously, and he's sort of kept that in the back of his mind throughout his career. But you know, just to see him get back to that defensive, you know, locksman, if you will, a guy who can really get into the and slow down one of the better scorers, if not your opposing best scoring player, that's a huge advantage for the Celtics, especially when you look at guys like Marcus Smart, you know, battling injuries and you know, doesn't always have it 100% night after night, especially in the playoffs, and Jalen's there to pick up the slack.
Yeah. And Jalen's effort to me is emblematic of like what I think is the most interesting thing about the last two games is Celtics playing with poise the entire game. You know, not you're gonna have ups and downs, you're gonna have letdowns. Like as the offense kind of went to crap and halfway through that first quarter, was a little off throughout, but they never lost. Like they maintained. Again, it seems, you know, kind of like a cliche to say they kept their poise, but they didn't come to pieces at any point. You know, they never let the runs get too far. They you know, they were always able to answer back all game, even when things weren't great. It didn't, like I said, even when their offense wasn't working, it didn't affect them on what they were doing on the defensive end. They kept the energy up the whole time. They didn't just give away buckets and just, you know, piss away really good work by just not being focused, not running back on defense. I thought it was, you know, overall, those are one of the big questions we have. And, you know, I'm not going to say it's answered forever and you're going to forget that they have it in their DNA every once in a while to, you know, lapse, but they haven't at all the last two games. So, you know, we'll you know, credit for today. Cause again, this was one that I think it could have gone both ways. And the Celtics never really allowed Philly to kind of, you know, get themselves going. Real quick, want to mention Athletic Greens, one of our sponsors here at the Garden Report. We got another one coming in next week, which makes everybody at the Garden Report happy. We'll tell you about that. I might even give you a sneak peek with our new sponsor coming on board for the rest of the year.
Do I know about this? Oh, I do. Yes.
You do. But we'll tell you more about that later. First, we want to tell you Athletic Greens, great supplement if you want to go out and get yourself right. Great way to start your day. 75 vitamins, minerals, probiotics, adaptogens, 1 scoop of water. Done. Good for the day. Takes care of everything that you would be chasing with individual supplements, but you don't have to go shopping and have a bunch of different bottles and pills and things like that in your medicine cabinet. You just have your AG1 and you're done. Mental clarity, focus, recovery, gut health, immune system, all sorts of different things. Go to athleticgreens.com/garden. Once again, athleticgreens.com/garden. 5 free travel packs, year supply of vitamin D, and this incredible t-shirt. I know people now
give me one.
Now that Marcus is back on the phenomenal train, everybody wants the phenomenal shirts again. We are reprinting some phenomenal shirts. And again, people have been asking about a Garden Report store.
I demand now.
We actually expect to have it up soon. So you can either support our sponsors, which we love, and you get it free, or they'll be for sale as well, which you can do.
I went to my dad, that Garden Report shirt.
Your dad? Did he buy Athletic Greens?
Maybe.
I'm just kidding.
Maybe.
I'm not. If he bought, great. If he didn't, get him buy some.
Damn it, I'll buy it.
It's a business, damn it.
Looks a lot like it.
Play the adjustments game. What do you do if you're Doc here? I was kind of curious after that game 2 blowout, what would be different tonight. I'm not sure what you noticed that was necessarily different. I thought Embiid was overall, healthier and played better. I thought they did a good job kind of, defending the paint. But what if anything do you do from an adjustment standpoint? Now, I mentioned earlier, I really do think Melton for Tucker in that starting lineup makes sense there, because it'll give you a little more offense. And he was so good defensively, bothering Celtics players, and does a really good job. He's athletic and keeps people in front of him. But I don't know what else you do here if you're Philly, because now you went from sitting pretty and we've taken home court and we did it without our star to, if we don't win this next one, we're toast.
Yeah, well, Melton, I mean, the thing he does well that gets overlooked is he's also a good rebounder. He had like 8 tonight, and I think he's averaging a pretty good clip in this series. That's certainly something I think Doc has to think long and hard about. But the one thing that would actually help them that the Celtics just refuse to let them do, and that's initiate their offense earlier through Embiid. Because what's happening is if James Harden is bringing the ball up, Jaylen Brown is not letting him comfortably get over the half-court line. And by the time he makes that first pass, they've got maybe 12 seconds left on the shot clock, and that first pass isn't to Embiid. So by the time Embiid gets the ball early in the game, there's like 7-8 seconds on the shot clock, and now he's set. He's playing against a set Celtics defense. So I think Melton, that's the only thing that makes sense that would allow you to be a little bit faster than you are and have another scoring threat out there with Joel, because that's a big part of the problem right now. Is there just aren't enough guys out there who can make shots around Joel?
Yep. Yeah. I think that's a logical one. The other, you don't have a lot of cards to play though if you're the Sixers, right? That might be the only card you have to play. I think, Melton is logical, but at that point, I don't know strategically what you're really doing different there. This is your personnel, sink or swim, and it's really what you have. I mean, you can hope guys like Niang, get hot from 3 or something like that.
He had a great 3 minutes tonight where
Yeah.
he was making shots. But if you make that change with PJ, he's done because he can't help you off the bench.
Yeah.
He's done. And so I think that's the hesitancy, I think, on Doc's part to go that route, because he knows that one of my better, kind of hybrid defenders, if I make this move, he's not going to see the light of day, because there's not going to, you bring him in there to play against Grant? That's not really moving. That doesn't really make a whole lot of sense.
No, it might not. It is interesting. We didn't at any point in time give Marcus any praise tonight. The box score is not going to look great, but I thought he played an overall really good game. He ended up only 5 of 15, but I thought he had a period of time there where, he does have these moments where they lose their offensive identity and he's like, all right, screw it, I'm going to do it. And he did have that at a time where they actually really needed it. But I thought he was solid all night long too. And again, not a very, very, very sexy box score for him, but I thought he played a really good game.
Well, he had the second best offensive rating of any of the Celtics, only behind Al Horford.
Yeah.
So the fact is, when he was out there, a lot of good things really happened. And again, I think the one thing that Marcus, I thought, did probably the best thing he did in this game was just being an organizer, just making sure that everyone was just doing the roles that they're supposed to do. And I think, again, you go back to game 2, Marcus played with a certain edge from the moment he stepped onto the floor to the final horn. And it feels as though these guys are embracing that need to play with more of an edge. And I don't know whether do you attribute it to Marcus? Do you attribute it to Jaylen? Do you attribute it to just Al? Or who? But the bottom line is he's part of that cohort of Celtics who are basically putting a clear imprint of themselves on this game. It's going forward.
It's the Marcus and Jaylen show when it comes to that right now. If those two, because they've got that dog in them. If they do it, I think it's hard to not follow at that point. Al, Brogdon, professionals, quiet leaders. We know Tatum and the way he is, and it's just more of a demeanor than it is anything else. But it's almost like, it's not a knock on him. Like let's use a cross sports analogy. Patrice Bergeron's not getting up in people's face. He's a lead by example guy. As long as Tatum's playing hard both ends, that's what you're going to get for. But in terms of who's going to get you fired up, those guys will get you fired up. But they're both playing in control. So I thought Smart. I agree with that. I thought he had a good game tonight as well.
I think they feed off of it, like off each other. Like stops and just channeling that energy to pretty much get everyone on the same page. It seems like whether it's gradual or what we saw in Game 2, where he felt like it was all throughout, to a blowout win. But yeah, I just think that that's something that Jalen is not starting to learn, but in this particular playoff, because he's so focused and so dialed in, especially on offense, that it's getting him buckets in a hurry, and he's realizing that. And he's noticing how the team obviously starts playing defense at a higher level when he's continuing to do that, and it carries over throughout the course of 4 quarters. But also, that offense just hasn't slowed down. I mean, we're talking about what he's been doing, throughout the entire playoffs, and it's been very consistent, and he's been easily their most consistent player. So yeah, I think the two go hand in hand, and Jalen's realizing that.
Yeah, championship back on.
Oh yeah,
just like that.
Definitely. I mean, look across the NBA too. I mean, I'm sure players realize, it's not as, I'm not gonna say it's not as easy, but it's not as, ideal. No matter who you're going up against, you just don't know. You don't know what the other team's going to come up with. I mean, look at the Bucks is probably a prime example. It's interesting in the locker room before the game. It was Tatum, Marcus, and Hauser. They were all just sort of weighing in on what's going on in Milwaukee. And one side is like, but they were number one all year long. Like, how could you fire that head coach? And the other person was like, well, they didn't make adjustments, so that's what happens. It's interesting because they think about that stuff. And obviously the Celtics were ahead of the Bucks before they gave up that number one spot. And look where both teams are now. And you look back on it. And I just think if you're the Celtics, you have to think about that stuff because of what happened last year, going to the NBA Finals and all that. So it's good. It's good because in their mindset, it's like, man, nothing's guaranteed. Nothing is promised in this postseason.
Yeah, but I think with the Bucks, I mean, their situation, I think the biggest reason they got fired is because other than the championship year, they didn't get out of the first. They got bounced in the first and second round.
He almost got fired after that championship year, right, Sherrod? I mean, if they don't win a championship, and I don't mean anything closer, like I don't talk about like just going to the finals and losing game 7. No, they had to win a championship for him to keep his job. That's how I felt. Like that was the vibe I got for that team going in throughout that postseason where he was really like. His job was on the line.
It ultimately comes back to the one thing that we all know that's tried and true in this league, and that is get it done in the playoffs. There's a reason why Jimmy Butler is such a ridiculous player who during the regular season we don't really talk a whole lot about, but come playoff time, he becomes a different animal. And those players, they're the ones that are put in are held to a certain light, and their teams and their coaches get that out of them. But never got that out of his guys, other than the championship year.
It's a tough business, man.
I got a news, breaking news or an update. One of my trusted sources, I should say. It's about Grant Williams.
Spit it out, Josue. Come on.
Nothing too surprising, but Grant's going to be shut. No, I'm just kidding. No, he's going to receive stitches after this game. Well, he's currently receiving stitches after colliding with Joel Embiid. He's also going to be fitted for a mouthpiece that he's going to start wearing starting game 4, and we don't know how long that's going to be.
You might as well give him a damn helmet at this point. Dealing with Joel Embiid, I mean, shit.
This is great for Grant, though, man. This is going to leave a chip on his shoulder.
This is legitimately the best thing that could have being stepped on by Joel Embiid is the best thing that could have happened to Grant Williams.
Yeah, it is.
Because everybody's like the shut up Grant and like roll your eyes at Grant
because
gone.
We love you, Grant.
It's respect.
You got to respect him for this, right?
Jaylen Brown, again, we don't have it here, but Jaylen Brown's comments is just kind of like, talking about Grant Williams, to put his life on the line for the game, to see his head get smashed on the court and get up with a smile on his face. That's Grant Williams. He continues, I'm not going to keep commenting on the officiating, but what I saw was Grant getting his head stepped on by a 300-pound individual. To see that live was crazy in real time. Probably the craziest thing I've seen on a basketball court.
Joe Dumars, you've had a call. Calling Joe Dumars.
I don't think
film for you to watch.
MVP on the night that he got his flowers too. Jeez.
I don't think you can do that. Draymond stepped on a chest. Joel Embiid literally curb stomped Grant Williams. He just stepped on the back of his head.
And the funny part, but the irony about it is that the rationale that was behind, stepping on Sabonis is the same rationale why Joel stepped on Grant. He was right there.
Yeah,
he didn't have anywhere to go. So if Draymond got suspended, why wouldn't Joel?
Yeah, I don't know.
For stepping on a dude's head versus stepping on his chest, I mean, again, stepping on someone's head is like a kind of a big deal,
Oh,
particularly when you're 280 pounds, and that's being generous. That's
was-
been a very generous weight.
So where is he getting stitches, Josue? And is that going to impact his
His
availability or no?
Like he's in the process of. I don't want to say it's happening in the locker room, but according to this report, it's happening right now, and it's in preparation for Game 4. He's going to. He will be fitted for that mouthpiece, though. That's the part that's definitely going to happen.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, they're not saying how many stitches or anything like that. But he is currently getting stitches for the collision that he had with Joel Embiid.
Yeah. Jason Tatum talking about Al Horford's big game. Whoever laughed at Al earlier, shame on you.
Hey, Celtics fans, you guys should appreciate that. He motivated him. I mean, we knew Al was going to turn things around, but it happened sooner than later.
I like chip on your shoulder, Al.
I do too.
As I said, I went to shoot around before Game 2, and Al was if he could. I'm not saying he's a jerk. Al was as short and not polite as Al Horford could ever be. He's still a nice guy, and he has beautiful eyes and everything, but.
Everyone says that.
I know.
someone quote tweeted our video, and the guy goes, he's so handsome. I'm just like, Celtics Nation, man. They can't get enough of Al, I guess.
Yeah, because he looks at you with those beautiful eyes and bats those long lashes. But
it's the lashes, yeah.
It's all of it. But if he was really like, we are mad, as Joe said, frustrated and angry,
Yep.
You woke him up.
The pissed off Al.
You woke up Al. Anyway, we're gonna wrap it. These guys are in Philly. They've got a lot more to do, so they've gonna go do those things. Bobby Manning is buttoning it up in the locker room, and you can catch more of our stuff over on our Celtics All Access YouTube channel. Head right over there and subscribe. Why not? Also, you can always check out the audio version of the Garden Report right here, and you get that little what are those things called?
QR
codes. I always want to say, little QR code there. You could scan it. That'll take you right there. You could subscribe when the episode goes up. You can always listen to it, or you want to listen to it again. You missed the start of the show. You can do that, or you can watch the replay on YouTube. What's up, Josue?
To Matthew says Josue source said, "Trust me, bro." No, it's a much more trusted source than that.
Also, check out FanDuel.com/Boston. Sign up 1,000 in no sweat first bets. Once again, go to FanDuel.com/Boston. I got to tell you that. FanDuel.com/Boston to take advantage of that. Celtics win 114-102. A game kind of felt like they were in control of for most of the night. Able to withstand a couple of Philly runs. Take home court advantage back. The NBA championship once again runs through Boston as they have home court, locked up for the rest of this series. Win or lose in Game 4, or a chance to really kind of put Philly with their backs against the wall. That Game 4 is 3:30 on Sunday. All of these clowns are going to continue on doing stuff in Philly, but you can kind of catch all of our work over at CLNSmedia.com and on our YouTube channel. And Sherrod,
are in town too, Janice.
You can subscribe to Sherrod's Substack. What do you got, Sherrod?
Oh, good stuff. We'll have some post-game stuff looking at this, obviously, and some of the guys that stood out, some of the guys who need to stand their ass down, James Harden, from this game. So, and we'll have some more stuff throughout the week.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, and just to close it, Bobby's trying to get in, but I'm not letting him in. The James Harden thing is interesting because he can only be James Harden. He's either a good version of it or he's not. In the last couple of games, he hasn't been. So it's an interesting conundrum because you're not like going to sit him and you're not going to play somebody else. You're just going to play James Harden and hope that he's like the best version of James Harden. So you never know. After 2 dud games, I suspect he's going to bounce back a little bit because I don't think he's going to lay 3 eggs in a row, but we'll see. Game 4, as we said, Sunday, 3:30. We'll be back for that. Thank you for watching the Garden Report once again. And we look forward to